Hey everybody, this is Russ from KONKR. There's been a big update to Odin, which is a Nintendo Switch emulator for Android, and we're going to take a look at it here in this video. If we look at the changelog from this most recent update, which is a couple days old at this point, it says that they've improved the stock Qualcomm driver compatibility. And below that, you can see that it says initial support also improves overall game support on 8 Elite devices. Now, the reason why this is a big deal is because they're talking about these stock drivers that come with your device, and we've got two new upcoming handhelds with the Snapdragon 8 Elite. And the big issue here is that those particular chipsets do not have turnip driver support, which are third-party drivers that you can load onto your device. And so other handhelds that have a different chipset, like the Snapdragon 8 Elite or the G3 Gen 3 here on the KONKR Pocket Fit, these can be loaded up with those third-party drivers, which help to improve Nintendo Switch gameplay. And that's why this is a big deal. Instead of waiting for the Mesa Turnip team to make new drivers for the Snapdragon 8 Elite, it's always best if it just runs out of the box better, and that's what we're seeing here with this new update. And this is important because we've got two new handhelds coming out very soon that run the Snapdragon 8 Elite, including an Elite version of the KONKR Pocket Fit, as well as the Odin 3. Now, I happen to have a phone that has the Snapdragon 8 Elite inside of it already. This is the REDMAGIC 10S Pro. I did a review about it, I will leave it linked down below, but the most important thing here is that I've got a device to test it on with this new Odin update. And so that's what I'm going to do in this video. We're just going to test a bunch of Nintendo Switch games on this new Odin update, and I'm going to break it up into a bunch of different categories. The first one will be games that are totally glitchy and just don't play at all, and then some that are glitchy but still what I would consider maybe playable, and then we would also have, games that are greatly improved since the last time I tried out this emulator on this chip, and then finally we'll just show all the games that run great, and that's the biggest chunk. That's pretty exciting. We're going to keep it very simple. I'm just going to use one controller. This is the GameSir X5 Lite. This thing costs $35. It's a telescopic controller, and there's a few reasons why I really like using this right now. Number one is that there's no battery in it, so it's super lightweight. It's got a direct connection here with USB-C port, so perfect for using with a phone. And then it also has non-analog triggers. So these are digital triggers like they are in the original Nintendo Switch. So this is perfect when playing Switch emulation. So this is the controller I'm going to be using throughout this video. I will also leave it linked down below. Now, in terms of setup, I did not do anything special here. I just went onto their GitHub page, downloaded the latest release client, and then just went from there. I loaded up my prod.keys, loaded up my games, and then just started playing them. I did not load any third-party drivers or anything else. This is all running from scratch. Now, making this video is a little bit tricky. I don't want to get on somebody's radar, so what I'll be doing throughout the video is showing off the game, but then blurring it out when it's a first-party game, and then maybe using a different funny title instead. So you'll see what I mean here in a moment. So let's start with our first section, which is going to be the worst category. These are the games that I would consider to be glitchy and unplayable. And I'll be playing each of these games in alphabetical order in each specific category. So starting here with Alien Hominid HD, this game starts up just fine, but when you actually get into gameplay, it crashes. I tried this half a dozen times, and unfortunately, it just wouldn't work. I had a similar problem with Ori and the Will of the Wisps, where I could get through the title screen, but once I tried to start up a game, it would pause. And unfortunately, this doesn't seem like a game that is working well. Now, I was able to get Ori and the Blind Forest actually running in-game, but I kind of wish I hadn't because it was super glitchy. The screen seemed to split itself in half diagonally, and even when trying to move my character around, often there were pauses or cover-ups, and so I wasn't able to see what was going on, so there obviously is some sort of texture issue happening with this game. And there were some moments where it played just fine, but all in all, I would say that this is an unplayable game right now. I had a similar problem with Portal 2, where I would get pretty far into the game, but before it actually launched, it would crash. Now, ironically, when I first played this in the older update of Odin on this particular device, it actually ran okay. But also bear in mind that Portal 2 is a game that will frequently crash, and so sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes it'll actually work, and other times it will not. I personally tested it about 10 times right here, and I never got past the title screen in this particular setup. Now, one experience that I found very interesting was Sonic Mania. So this game would actually play absolutely fine from a performance standpoint and as far as accuracy of the actual emulation, but the colors were completely different. It almost looks like an inverted version of this game, and honestly, it's pretty cool looking, and it is nice that it plays just fine, but for the most part, I would also consider this to be unplayable, but you might get a kick out of this too. Another game, Sonic Superstars, this one actually started out okay, but like with Portal 2, this one is kind of unstable, and so I often found it pausing or crashing, and so unfortunately this one is just not a very stable experience, but every once in a while you can get through a level. Now, I had tested Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening in my previous video, so I remember that performance before. It was super dark and kind of glitchy, and unfortunately, even with this new update, I'm seeing a pretty similar experience. Now, the lighting effect in this new update is better than it was previously, but it's still kind of flashing quite a bit. But we are seeing some glimpses of really good gameplay here, so I think that this is an improvement, but I would still not want to play it with this much flashing and glitching happening. So I'm going to call this one as well unplayable. And then finally, another one I wanted to throw in here that I would consider unplayable for the strangest reason is Lumines Remastered. Now, graphically, everything looks great in this game, but if you're familiar with this game, what happens is that line goes across, and then it will basically clear out any of the squares that you have made, and that's how you kind of evolve in this game. But for some reason, that clear line does not clear anything, and so it just kept stacking up and up and up as I was playing, and so inevitably, I just died because the blocks weren't being cleared. But I've never seen this happen in this game before, and I thought it was really interesting that it wasn't necessarily like a graphic thing, but an actual gameplay mechanic glitch. And so if you are a Lumines fan like me, you probably find this super strange, but it's also kind of interesting as well. Either way, that's the roundup here for games that I would consider to be unplayable because they are glitchy or that they crash. So now let's talk about games that I would consider to be glitchy, like I found some sort of graphical defect in them, but still playable as long as you don't mind dealing with it. We'll start here with A Short Hike. This game, for the most part, plays just great, but every once in a while, I'd say maybe 5% of the time, I did see some sort of texture glitching in the map itself. And so, again, I don't think this is enough to break my gameplay experience. I think I would still be okay playing through it, but it is not a perfectly accurate experience. Another game that was pretty similar to that was Octopath Traveler. There were some shadows that were flickering as I was moving around the map, but it is worth noting that this particular level right here, as I get kind of further in the world map traversal, this usually glitches out on any emulator, even with third-party drivers. So in fact, this is some of the best emulation I've seen on Android with this particular game. Even going into the battles, it actually looked great. Now, I don't think it's perfect. I'm not really sure how accurate this is compared to the PC version. I'd have to show them side by side, but either way, I am really impressed how far this emulation has come. Like I said, this is a game that is habitually really problematic when it comes to graphical issues, and so the fact that it's running so well right now is a really great sign. Another game that can be pretty glitchy on most other emulation devices as well as apps is Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door. It's still a little bit glitchy here, for example when the curtain falls down, as well as sometimes in battle I would see a little bit of a flicker of graphics, but still, it's one of those things where maybe 98% of the time it's just fine. So every once in a while you'll see a little bit of a glitch, but I would consider this to be playable. Now this game, like with Portal 2 and Sonic Superstars, is a little bit temperamental and will often just crash for no reason. So I wouldn't really recommend playing through this game on Android right now just because it's very unstable, but it is at least looking pretty good right now. And then finally, one other game that had some texture issues but still definitely playable was Risk of Rain 2. Now, the glitches mostly happened in like the terrain as you're moving around, so it didn't really affect the gameplay as I was playing because I could still see the enemies, I could shoot them just fine, but sometimes the ground as I was walking on it was a little bit weird looking. And so I would consider this to be playable. I went through a few rounds like this and it was just fine, but again, if you're really picky about accuracy, this may not be a good time for you. So surprisingly, those are the games that I noticed that had some crazy glitching to them or were unplayable. So now let's talk about some of the games that are a lot better now. Let's start with Hades, and I did show this one off in my original review as well, and this one had a lot of lighting issues. You can see just the torches and the lamps around the whole scenery are just really weird looking. The gameplay performance was just fine, but this was glitchy enough for me to say that, yeah, I didn't really think it was a good experience. Now, flash forwarding to today, it's greatly improved. The lighting seems to be a lot more balanced and much like how it is on the PC. I was still seeing some flickering in the shadows here and there, so it's not a perfect experience, but I would maybe put it in the previous category where it is glitchy but still playable, but still a very large improvement over the previous version. To put it another way, I would definitely consider this to be playable and I would enjoy playing through a couple runs of Hades like this. Okay, next up we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and this thing was a big ol' mess the first time that I tested it out. It basically did not show the track at all, so I had no idea where I was going as I was playing it. And I'm happy to report that this new version runs absolutely perfectly. Like, I didn't find any sort of graphical glitches at all. I got some slowdowns as the shaders were compiling, which is kind of expected with this game and Switch emulation in general, but overall it's a very smooth experience. The Snapdragon 8 Elite is a very powerful processor, and so I found just in general the performance performance here is better than it is on the 8 Gen 2 and the G3 Gen 3. And these games are all running in docked mode, by the way, which means that they're going to be pushed up to 1080p in most scenarios, so we are pushing this pretty far as well. Another game that previously had a lot of graphical issues with the older version of Eden was Super Mario 3D World / Bowser's Fury. In the Bowser's Fury section in particular, it really depended on which direction you were facing, and sometimes it would be a blank screen, and other times it would look okay. This time around with the new update, it is running absolutely fine. I'm not seeing any graphical issues, the accuracy seems correct to me, and yeah, it's running great too at a full speed. So this is one of those times where it went from being unplayable to absolutely playable. It's awesome to see. And then finally, the last game in this category is going to be Super Mario Odyssey. This one also had the same issue as Mario Kart 8, where you could not see the actual ground or the track, and so you just didn't know where you were going. You could fall off a cliff and not even realize it. And I'm happy to report here that with this new version, yeah, it's running absolutely fine, much like those other versions. And so this is a really big deal to me. The fact that we had multiple games that were completely unplayable in the previous version are now just working out of the box with no special drivers or anything. So now let's talk about the biggest category of this video, and that's all the games that run really well, to the point where I didn't see any graphical issues and I didn't have any issues like crashing or anything else. I'm not saying that all these games are going to run perfectly, but it's really impressive how many of these actually did. To put this into context, the games that I showed in the category where they were crashing or they were glitchy but at least playable, those were 11 games altogether. This section has 25 games inside of it. So we'll start with 1980X. This is an old school beat 'em up style game that has a couple other gameplay mechanics to it, running absolutely fine. Same thing with Animal Well. This is a lightweight game, but would often crash on other versions of Yuzu, so the fact that it's running here is a really good sign as well. One of my favorite Metroidvanias is Axiom Verge. This is a game that really focuses on the gun mechanics, so as you get more weapons, you unlock different abilities and things like that. So a very fun game, and it's running just great here. Next up is Blasphemous 2, and this one ran absolutely fine as well. No graphical issues, and the gameplay was super tight. Another game I tested is Cadence of Hyrule. I'm very early in this, and I don't really understand how to play it accurately, but for the most part, yes, graphics looked great, gameplay was fine, so yes, I would consider this to be fully playable. I also played a couple levels of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. This one played absolutely fine too. This one is prone to glitching a lot in other different versions of handhelds and turnip drivers, so the fact that it's running out of the box completely fine is a really good sign. Of course, I also had to try out Celeste, one of my favorite platformers of all time, and absolutely no issues here. Everything looked great, and the gameplay was super nice. Moving on, I tested out Chicory, A Colorful Tale. I only played this one for maybe 20 minutes, but didn't see any sort of graphical issues, which is a good sign as well. So I would say that yes, at least in the beginning stages of this game, this one runs well too. Child of Light also looked pretty good here. I haven't played this one in years. It was on the PS Vita. It was a long time ago, but this does seem to be the same as I remember it. So hopefully if you know this game well, you can see whether or not this is accurate. Next up is Cuphead. This one ran absolutely fine here. Both performance and graphics were excellent. So yes, this was a really good experience too. Next up is Golf Story. I have not played this game much, but I did play a few holes and it looked great. So I think this one is going to be okay. I also tried out Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition, and this one looked great as well. I've tried this on a bunch of different systems and different emulators, and this looks perfect for me. I also tried out the 2 Hollow Knight games, the original as well as the new Silksong one, and yeah, these are running great. I think that, in general, if you wanted to play these games, this is going to be an excellent way to do it. One of my old favorite platformers is Iconoclasts, and this one played absolutely fine. Now, in general, this one has very good compatibility across other versions of Eden and other emulators, so I'm not super surprised that it's running well. This thing kind of plays on everything. Same thing with the Katana Zero. This is a game that just seems to be really well optimized on Switch emulation in particular, so it's a very easy test game, and so I'm not surprised that it's playing well, but it is also a good sign that it is. Now, one game that often does not play very well is Little Kitty Big City. Now, this game is kind of unique. I've only played it for a few minutes every time, but it kind of feels like Untitled Goose Game, but a little bit more vertical and maybe just a little bit more action-oriented. Either way, as far as I can tell, this game is playing exactly the same as it does on PC. Moving over to the M's, let's talk about Mario Tennis Aces. This is a game that is very much so prone to graphical glitching. Usually you have all sorts of weird stutters and just lighting issues, and I found none of those issues here. Now, obviously I'm blurring out the footage, so you're gonna have to take my word for it, but yes, this was completely playable here. If only this game was a little bit better and I actually enjoyed playing it, I would probably spend a lot of time on it. Next up is Metroid Dread. I played this maybe the first half hour or so, and it played absolutely fine as well. So yeah, as far as I can tell, this is good. Next up is Outer Wilds. This is a game that is super dark. No matter how much I bring up the brightness on my display, it's just really hard to show on camera. But as far as I can tell, yes, everything is working well. It's not a glitch, the fact that it's dark, it's just the fact that you are playing this game at night. Next up is Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy, and this one works absolutely fine. Now, I played through all these games on the DS, and I've always wanted to go back and play these in the widescreen format. I've got this thing on PC as well as on Switch, but I've never really gotten around to it. Regardless, they do seem to be working just fine, no graphical issues or anything else, so yeah, I think it's fully playable. Another game I tested is Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, and this game, surprisingly, is kind of hard to run on Eden or other Switch emulators if you don't have a very powerful chipset. As an example, playing this game on the REDMAGIC Pocket 5 can sometimes be a bit of a boggy mess. Now, on a chipset like the Snapdragon 8 Elite, we have absolutely no problem here, and it's also great to see that the graphics are looking good too. Another lightweight game I love to test is SteamWorld Dig 2, and I played through maybe the first 20-25 minutes here, and no issues here either. I also played a few levels of Super Mario Wonder and had no issues here. Now, this is a game that is prone to having those stutters as it compiles those shaders, but other than that, the longer you play it, the better it'll be. And from a graphical glitch standpoint, I didn't see any accuracy issues here at all. And then finally, the last game that I tested in our alphabetical list is Super Mario RPG, and this one played just fine. I kind of lumped this in the same place as Paper Mario Thousand Year Door in that these games were just coming out as Yuzu started to die off, and so as a result, I don't think that they got a lot of the emulation work that other Mario games got. Either way, it's nice to see that this latest Eden update makes the game run absolutely fine. So there you go, there's a quick gameplay showcase on the new Eden emulator update, and I'm very impressed with it. To be honest, I was kind of worried about the Odin 3 as well as the KONKR Pocket Fit Elite versions because I figured that the Switch emulation on them was going to be a lot worse than the previous models that we have seen before, like the Odin 2. And so I'm really happy to see that a new emulator update has fixed a lot of those concerns, especially as these devices are still in a pre-order period. And so with this new update, the way that I'm thinking about it is that if you are in the market for something like the Odin 3 or the Elite version of the KONKR Pocket Fit, I think that you're going to be well taken care of. Not only are you going to have excellent PC gaming through things like Game Native and Game Hub, but it does look like Nintendo Switch emulation is going to be pretty good. And before we wrap up, one other tool I wanted to mention is called EmuReady. Now, this is a website that will basically show you game compatibility across a bunch of different platforms. So you can type in the name of your device and then the name of a game and see whether or not somebody's inputted some sort of report about how the game is running on that particular chipset and what settings that they used. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is that the developer of this website, who also happens to work on the Eden development team, is working on a new app that will actually do all this for you. There's going to be two different versions of this app. There's a light version, which you can find on GitHub right now, which is basically just an app version of that compatibility database. But they're also working on one that they're calling beta right now. And this one's going to do a bunch of stuff, but probably most important for this particular video is that it's going to integrate in with emulators like Eden. What this means is that it's going to recognize the games that you have on your device. It's going to pull these settings from the compatibility database. And then when you launch the game, it's actually going to launch it with those settings already configured. Now, this is still very much a work in progress, but I think it's a very promising way of tackling the whole settings configuration thing on these Android devices. I'll leave a link to EmuReady down below because I think it's an excellent service already in terms of the compatibility database, and it seems to just be getting more and more features. Anyway, that's all I got for this video now. This is a pretty exciting release. It makes me excited for devices like the Odin 3 when it comes to Nintendo Switch emulation. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful. We will see you next time. Happy gaming.